Hello guys, welcome back. So today we'll be starting with a new topic, that is paranasal sinuses. Now it's a very easy topic. On the left hand side picture, this is the coronal section which is in coronal section. As you have learned, where was coronal suture? Nothing, that as you have gotten through the coronal suture. Okay, that will give you the coronal section. So here you can see this is the nasal cavity, we can say, or it's your nose from the inside. Okay, so if I take a coronal section, we can see these are the orbits, right? Right between the orbits you have what? You have your nose. So you see the superior concha, these are bony elements. Then you have the superior meatus, which is behind this concha. Okay, then you have similarly middle concha, which will have middle meatus, inferior concha, inferior meatus. Now why we are learning this? Because here there will be some sinuses opening. Now why were they termed paranasal? Para means beside. Okay, so it is besides the nose, the sinuses opens beside the nose, hence the term paranasal sinuses. Understood? See, on the right hand side picture, this is the sagittal view. Imagine you have cut through the sagittal suture. So this is the sagittal view or sagittal section. Okay, so here you can see this is the superior nasal concha. What it is? Superior nasal concha, and in behind this depression you see, right? The shadowed part. This is where it is superior nasal meatus. Similarly, this is middle nasal concha. This is inferior nasal concha. So this is how it looks. Now I'll be explaining you this paranasal sinuses in a very simplified chart or a very simplified table. So learn accordingly. This was just so that you know how it is available in our nose, how it exactly looks in us. Okay. Now starting with that simplified view of paranasal sinuses. So first of all, we learned about something called a superior nasal concha, right? We learned about superior nasal concha. Then we learned something middle nasal concha, right? Then we saw inferior nasal concha. Then we saw inferior nasal concha. Now the superior nasal concha will open into superior nasal meatus. Okay, this middle will open into middle nasal meatus. And where will inferior open into? Inferior nasal meatus. Okay, now let's know about the sinuses. Okay, above the superior nasal concha, write down sphenoid sinus. And below superior nasal concha, write down posterior ethmoidal sinus. You have 3 ethmoidal sinus. Okay, so this one is the posterior ethmoidal sinus, which is located in the superior nasal concha. Okay, and this one thing that you should remember, that the superior nasal concha has olfactory receptors. So many a time Krok asks the questions regarding this olfactory receptors, where they are located. So you can give superior nasal concha if given in the option, or they can give you superior nasal meatus. So these are the where your smell receptors are present. Okay, then in the middle nasal concha, the sphenoid sinus will open into sphenoethmoidal recess. It will open into sphenoethmoidal recess. Okay, now talking about the middle nasal concha. Here you remember a mnemonic known as FAM. Okay, F stands for frontal sinus. Then I said ethmoidal sinuses are how many? They are 3 number. One was done. Which one was done? Posterior was done, right? So anterior ethmoidal sinus. You have middle ethmoidal sinus. Middle is present where? In the middle nasal concha. So middle ethmoidal sinus. And the last is maxillary sinus. And you must also remember regarding the maxillary sinus, if you have any problem on your upper teeth, okay, so this upper teeth inflammation can spread to this maxillary sinus. Okay, when we were doing the bones of the face also, at that time I explained you that where was maxilla present, right? So that's the same place where the maxillary sinus is present. So this maxillary sinus will open, these all open into middle nasal meatus. Okay, the middle nasal concha will also open into middle nasal meatus. Okay, so remember this mnemonic FAM. F for frontal sinus, A for anterior ethmoidal, M for middle ethmoidal sinus, and M for maxillary sinus. Among this middle ethmoidal sinus have a structure. The structure is called as bulla ethmoidalis. It's called as bulla ethmoidalis. One second. It is known as bulla ethmoidalis. And this maxillary sinus is the largest sinus, and it is the first to develop among all these sinuses. Okay, largest sinus and first to develop. Okay, now this inferior nasal concha, it opens into inferior nasal meatus. Now there's a MCQ coming, that where does nasolacrimal duct opens into? So you must remember that the nasolacrimal duct also opens into the inferior nasal meatus. Okay, and there's this auditory tube. Auditory tube by musculotubal canal also opens here. Okay, so auditory tube is also known as eustachian tube. It is connecting your your pharynx part and your middle ear part. Okay, it runs from the middle ear to the pharynx, and it also opens in the inferior nasal concha, and it runs into a canal which is known as musculotubal canal. It's a tube made up of muscles, so musculotubal canal. So that's it. Thank you.